I mentioned on one of my socials, I used to take a lot of L-theanine, and I started taking probably about 14 years ago. And intermittently throughout the last decade and a half, I've taken it to calm down my feelings of anxiety and put me into that flow state that people love so much when they take L-theanine. But I mentioned on one of my socials that I stopped taking L-theanine and instead trained my brain or my mind to create that state automatically. Somebody asked, how do you do that? So I figured it was a good time to make a video because there are a couple of ways you can do it. Actually, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but there's three really simple ways that you can do it today. And they kind of go from beginner, intermediate, advanced in that order, but you don't have to start with beginner. You can start with advanced because why wouldn't you? I mean, you can do anything you want. First, worth mentioning, how do you create the state of L-theanine without L-theanine? Well, it's worth asking, how do you create the state with L-theanine? How does it all work? Well, I am not like a doctor and I'm not a chemist or I'm not a biophysicist or whatever, but I know that studies have shown that L-theanine puts you into this alpha theta state where it's relaxed and you're focused at the same time. And it just so happens that's the same state you are in when you're under a hypnotic trance or when you're watching a TV program or a movie or reading a really good book or walking outside in nature. So, okay, well, this little capsule or substance, which is found in the leaves of green tea, which is why green tea kind of has this relaxed and focused effect on people. And it's produced by many other things. So you can get the same effect, not just by taking L-theanine, but by doing all these other activities, right? So now that you know that, now that you can draw this connection, it's a little bit easier for your mind to see how you could create this effect. And so I'm going to give you three ideas. The first is placebo yourself, okay? A lot of people, they sit down and they have a cup of coffee and they pop an L-theanine because it kind of counteracts the caffeine, right? So you're taking L-theanine at the same time every day during the same activity. So one day, instead of taking L-theanine, pop a sugar pill or some other inert substance and just tell yourself, this is going to do the same thing as the L-theanine. And if you read the studies that are out there, you'll see that you can take a placebo and know that it's a placebo and it still does what you want because the mind just, for whatever reason, will create those states for you. Now, let me interrupt this before I get to number two and say, I'm not saying that taking medicine or supplements or things like that is all in your head. Obviously, when you eat food or you take substances of any kind, they do things to your body. And sometimes we say, it does this, and we can measure that and we can see it. And sometimes we can't. Sometimes it's a mystery and we don't know why it works. So I am not a medical professional. I'm not saying stop taking stuff because yes, there are things that you take that do things physically to you. But in the specific case of L-theanine, and what makes it interesting is the fact that it's the primary benefit from where I'm sitting is that brainwave state that you can get easily by just, placeboing yourself. Or, if you can take a pill that is L-theanine, or you could watch a movie and it achieves the same general feeling, well, you don't need a pill to do that, do you? So, number one, you placebo yourself. Wherever you take L-theanine, you just take something else that doesn't do anything, quote unquote. A sugar pill, a placebo. The second thing is you create an anchor. And so now we're getting into some NLP stuff. You can do this for any feeling, by the way. It doesn't have to be the feeling that you get from L-theanine. But when you sit down and let's say you take L-theanine every morning when you drink your coffee and you sit at your desk and you start work. So you sit down, you have your coffee, you take your L-theanine, and as soon as you start to feel that feeling of I'm focused, I'm relaxed, this feels amazing, I'm in flow state, you anchor it. Now, how do I anchor it? Well, a common anchor, and one popularized by Tony Robbins before he got up on stage, is the clenched fist and like the yeah. And so what he would do is he would conjure up all of these emotions and he would anchor that to a position, like a posture or something that you can touch, right? So the clenched fist is a feeling. It's a kinesthetic feeling. And you can do like this, you can tap your thumb and your forefinger together. That's an anchor. You can tap the side. I mean, you could literally do anything. You could pat yourself on the back and you focus intently as much as you possibly can on the feeling that L-theanine has given you. And then you anchor it with something physical. So that's number 2. The third, which is kind of advanced, like again, we're working our way up to seeing how the mind can create these states, okay? And how we can experience that and prove that to ourselves. The third one is just to recreate it with your mind altogether. So note that Pavlov's dogs, okay, this is something people bring up often, but Pavlov could ring a bell and train the brain of a dog to make something happen to the body physically. Okay, so he rang a bell and presented food and associated the food and the salivary response with the bell ringing. So eventually he could just ring the bell and the dog would salivate. Okay, this is the same thing we're doing here. You're just training your brain to associate something, a physical response to some condition. Okay, in this case, the anchor, or sitting down at your desk and having your coffee. You can do the same with coffee. You could substitute caffeine for decaf and just tell yourself, this makes me happy and energized. Okay, again, physical things really do happen when you drink coffee. You really do, get like adrenaline is released and maybe it's cleaning out your liver. I don't know, whatever the studies say about coffee. And so if you quit coffee and the caffeine that goes with it, yeah, you might get a caffeine withdrawal, like a headache. But you can, over time, once the physical effects go away, because believe it or not, you can control those with your mind too. But that's for another video. So use a placebo yourself. You make an anchor and condition yourself to respond to the anchor, which taking that L-theanine pill is an anchor, right? So you just replace that for a different anchor. The third thing is to actually recreate the feeling with your mind. So if you can sit here and close your eyes and be quiet and still and go into that moment, you've just taken the L-theanine, you've just sat into your desk, you can imagine this all with your mind and try and bring that feeling in now. Bring that feeling into your awareness and feel that focus and feel that calm flow state. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, you might be able to do this. You might not think you can, but if you try it, what's the worst that could happen? You just spend 5 minutes sitting quietly? Well, I don't think that's ever hurt anybody. So you can try it, and maybe you get a little bit of the feeling, and that encourages you. And then the next time you sit down and try it, you really feel like you've just taken an L-theanine. And now all of a sudden, you have learned and taught your body and given yourself evidence and proof, I can do it with my mind. And now you don't need the L-theanine anymore. Or take the L-theanine, because studies show that it's really safe and it's good for you, and there's no problem with that. But a lot of you might be really interested to find out that you can do this with your mind. And if you can do that with your mind, what else can you do with your mind? Thanks for watching. And if you liked this, tell me what I should talk about next in the comments below.